Welcome back to the deep dive. We look at a lot of complex systems on this show: economics, geopolitics, tech stacks, psychological frameworks. But today, today we are looking at what is arguably the single most difficult system to reconcile in the entire history of human thought. We aren't wading in the shallow end today. We are going straight to the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
Yeah, that is not an exaggeration. We are absolutely wading into the deep end here. No floaties allowed today.
We really are. We're tackling the heavyweight champion of questions, the one that frankly keeps more people out of the church and keeps more believers awake at night staring at the ceiling than anything else. We are talking about the problem of evil, the problem of pain, suffering, the whole mess.
Right. It is the stumbling block. And I think we need to acknowledge the gravity of it right up front. John Stott, who was, a titan in modern Christian thought, you put it bluntly, he said the fact of suffering undoubtedly constitutes the single greatest challenge to the Christian faith. And he's right, because it's not just an intellectual puzzle, is it?
No, and that's exactly where I want to start, because we have this massive stack of sources today: Augustine, Lewis, Kreeft, the scriptures. And they are all full of this very high-level logic. But our listener isn't usually asking this question because they're bored in a philosophy class.
Exactly.
They're asking because they just got a phone call they didn't want, or they're sitting in an oncology ward, or they're just, watching the news and seeing a war break out.
Yeah, we call this the learner profile usually, but in this specific deep dive, it's really more of the sufferer profile. When you are looking at the raw reality of loss, like a child getting sick, or a natural disaster wiping out a whole village, the intellectual answers can feel, cold.
Cold is putting it mildly. I mean, it can feel outright insulting. If someone comes up to you at a funeral and starts talking about syllogisms, you want to punch them.
So the mission today is tricky. We have to validate that pain. We absolutely cannot minimize it. But we also have to look at the logic. Because if the logic doesn't hold up, the face crumbles. Right. If the foundation is cracked, the whole house falls. And the core dilemma, the logic trap that people get caught in, is actually very simple. It's been around since Epicurus. It's a triad of three propositions that seem like they just cannot all be true at the exact same time.
Lay those out for us, just so we have the baseline.
Sure. Proposition 1, God is all-powerful. Proposition 2, God is all good. Proposition 3, evil exists.
And the skeptic looks at that triad and basically says, pick two. You can't have all three.
Precisely. The argument goes, well, if God is all-powerful, he could stop the cancer. He has the absolute ability. If he is all good, he would want to stop the cancer. But the cancer is still there.
So the conclusion people naturally draw is either he's not powerful enough to stop it, so he's wringing his hands on the sidelines, wishing he could help, but he's just too weak, or he's not good enough to care, he's either a weakling or a bully, or maybe he's just totally indifferent, like a kid with an ant farm who just forgot about it and went to play video games.
That is the starting point for the classic atheist argument. And it's a powerful argument, it really is. But the Christian worldview claims all three are true simultaneously. God is fully powerful, fully good, and evil is fully real. And that is what we are going to unpack today.
And we aren't just going to try to solve the puzzle to win a debate, right?
No, not at all. The goal of this deep dive is to see if understanding why God allows this can actually deepen our trust in him. How does knowing he allows evil for a greater good inspire us to live more devotedly to him?
Which is a really tall order. Telling someone that understanding the cold mechanics of evil will actually make them love God more, that sounds completely counterintuitive. I mean, usually when I analyze evil, I just get angry.
It is counterintuitive. But if we follow the roadmap we have laid out, I think we get there. We're going to look at the shadow concept from St. Augustine, which changes what we think evil actually is. Then we have to look at the risk of love, which gets us into the messy world of free will. Then God's radical solution, the cross. And finally, the greater good paradox.
Okay, let's start with the foundation then. The definition of evil. Because there is a trap here that I think catches people before they even open a Bible. It's a logical trap about creation.
You mean the creator of all trap?
Right. The logic goes like this. Premise A, God created everything that exists. Premise B, evil exists. Conclusion, therefore, God created evil. God invented the very thing we hate.
It sounds totally airtight. If you look at a list of ingredients for the universe, and evil's on the list, and God is the only chef in the kitchen, then God put it there. But this is where St. Augustine had a massive intellectual breakthrough. He looked at that second premise, the idea that evil is a thing, and he attacked it.
Wait, pause right there. Because if I'm the listener, I'm pushing back immediately. If
Ah.
you tell me the person who mugged me or the disease that killed my parent isn't a thing, I'm going to say you're playing word games. It feels very real. It has very real, devastating consequences.
And Augustine would completely agree that it is real.
Yeah.
He isn't saying evil is an illusion. He isn't saying it's Maya like in some Eastern philosophies where pain is just a trick of the mind and you have to transcend it. He is talking about its actual metaphysical substance. He's asking, does evil have an independent existence?
Break that down for us. What does that actually mean in practice?
Okay, think about a rusty car. Imagine a beautiful classic car, fresh off the line. The metal, the engine, the paint. Those are things. They were created. They have substance. Now think about the rust on the fender 10 years later. The rust is real, right? It damages the metal. It ruins the car.
Sure, you can see it, you can touch it, it flakes off in your hand.
But can you have a pile of just rust? Can you have rust floating in a vacuum somewhere without any metal to attach itself to?
No, rust is just the oxidation of the iron. You have to have the iron first for the rust to even happen.
Exactly. Or think of a wound on your arm. The wound is a stark reality. It hurts, it bleeds, it can get infected and literally kill you. But the wound cannot exist without the arm. The arm can exist without the wound, but the wound is essentially a parasite. It requires a host to exist.
So Augustine's saying evil is rust.
He calls it privatio boni, the privation of good. It's not a created substance. It's a lack. It's a corruption of something that was originally good. Just like darkness. You can't go into a science lab and create a bucket of darkness. You can't pour darkness into a room. Darkness is just what happens when you remove the light energy. Cold is just what happens when you remove heat energy.
So applying that back to the chef analogy from earlier, God didn't bake a murder cake.
Right? God created the will. He created human hand. He created physical strength. He created passion. All those are fundamentally good things. God created the iron of the car. Murder is a twisting of those good things. It's using the good strength and the good will to destroy rather than to protect. It is the rust on the human will.
Okay, I see the distinction. So the syllogism actually changes. 1, God created everything, every substance, every atom, every force. 2, evil is not a substance, it's a corruption or a lack of the good. 3, therefore God is not the author of evil.
Exactly. He created the sword. He didn't create the act of stabbing an innocent person with it. That distinction matters deeply because it clears God of being the originator of evil. He didn't invent it the way he invented the giraffe or the Orion Nebula.
But that always comes up, even if he didn't invent it. He sees the rust eating the car, he sees the wound. If he is omnipotent, if he's all-powerful, why doesn't he just fix the privation? Why not just fill the hole? I mean, if I see a pothole in my driveway and I have the cement, I fill it.
And this brings us to the second definition we have to fix. We defined evil, now we have to define power.
Omnipotence.
Yes, we often think omnipotence just means God can do absolutely anything.
Which seems like a pretty fair definition for a deity. With God, all things are possible. That's literally in the book.
It is in the book, but we have to be very precise about what a thing is. Omnipotence means God can do anything that is logically possible. He has the power to affect any object or event, but he cannot do the logically absurd.
You're talking about the square triangle paradox from our notes.
Right. Can God create a rock so heavy he can't lift it? Can God create a square triangle?
No, because those aren't things. They are just words jumbled together. A square triangle is pure nonsense. If it's a triangle, it has exactly 3 sides. If it's a square, it has 4. It fundamentally cannot be both at the same time.
C.S. Lewis puts it beautifully. He says, nonsense remains nonsense even when we talk about God. You can't put the words round and square together and expect God to make it real just because he's God. It's not a lack of power on his part, it's a lack of definition in the request.
Okay, fair enough. God isn't a cosmic magician doing illogical card tricks. But how does that apply to my suffering? I'm not asking God for a square triangle. I'm asking him to stop a war. That doesn't seem logically impossible. Stopping a bullet? That seems very possible for an all-powerful being.
It isn't impossible to stop a bullet physically, but it might be logically impossible to create a world where humans have genuine free will, the actual ability to love, and yet guarantee they never pull the trigger.
So you're saying a forced free choice is essentially a square triangle.
Exactly. Think about the phrasing. I force you to freely choose me. It's a complete contradiction in terms. If God wants a universe with authentic love, he needs a universe with authentic freedom. And if you have freedom, You inherently have the possibility of choosing something other than God. You have the possibility of creating the rust.
And this is the risk of love argument. This gets us into part 2 of our roadmap.
It does. And we really need to sit with this for a minute because people always ask, why didn't God just make us so we always do the right thing?
We'd be happier. The world would be infinitely safer. No wars, no crime, no abuse.
It would be safer. But would it be better? Imagine you're deeply lonely, so you build an android spouse. It looks human. It feels human. But it's programmed. You programmed it to kiss you every morning at 8. You programmed it to say, I adore you every single time you clap your hands.
Yeah, that's creepy. It's totally Stepford Wives territory.
It is creepy. You clap your hands, it says, I love you. You clap again, I love you.
Yeah.
Is that love?
No, it's
Oh,
a recording. It's a mechanical reflex.
It's a mirror. You're really just loving yourself through a machine you built. God didn't want a universe of complicated biological toys. He didn't want automatons. He wanted sons and daughters. He wanted lovers.
And love, by its very definition, has to be voluntary.
You cannot mandate love.
Yeah.
The moment you force it, it instantly ceases to be love. So to create a world capable of the highest possible good, which is love God, had to allow the possibility of the greatest risk, which is evil.
So the origin of evil isn't God's design. It's the tragic side effect of God's greatest gift. The gift of freedom.
The price of the ticket for love is freedom. And the unavoidable price of freedom is the possibility of pain. The ability to disobey is necessary for freedom to exist. The fall in Eden was just a perversion of the will, turning from a greater good, which is God, to a lesser good.
Okay. I can get on board with that regarding the origin story. Adam and Eve, or humanity in general, we used our freedom to turn away. We privated the good. We made the rust. But that only explains how it started. It doesn't explain why he lets it continue right now.
Ah, the statute of limitations argument.
Yeah.
Okay, God, the experiment failed. We completely messed up. Why not just pull the plug on the whole operation?
Exactly. I mean, we look at the news every day. Genocide, trafficking, corporate greed. If I were God, I'd look at that mess and say, enough. I'd zap it. Tonight, midnight. End of evil forever.
That is the zap hypothetical. And it's a very popular sentiment. God, stop the evil.
Yeah.
But let's play that out practically. Really visualize it. Tonight at midnight, God decrees that all evil will be actively and permanently removed from the universe.
Okay. The terrorists are gone. The serial killers are gone. The corrupt dictators are gone. Sounds great so far.
The rapists are gone. Great. But God is perfectly consistent. He doesn't just stop the loud evils that make the evening news. He stops all evil, all privation of good.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
He has to remove the lies, the white lies you tell your boss to cover up a mistake. He has to remove the selfishness, where you ignored your spouse because you were scrolling on your phone. He has to remove the hidden greed, the pride, the daily lack of compassion.
So if God actually removes all evil at midnight?
Where are you at 12:01?
I'm gone.
We're all gone. There's no one left standing.
Solzhenitsyn said it best. He wrote, "The line separating good and evil passes not through states, nor between classes, nor between political parties either, but right through every human heart."
So we're constantly asking God to cut out the cancer, completely forgetting that the cancer is in us. We want strict justice for them, but we desperately want mercy for us. Exactly. We want God to stop the bad guys out there, but God looks at the world and sees us. So the fact that the world hasn't ended yet, the fact that he hasn't zapped the evil out of existence, isn't proof that he doesn't care.
It's proof that he's incredibly patient.
It's a severe mercy. 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 9 says, He is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. He is literally holding back the curtain on the final act to give us time to get our lines right. If you look at the Old Testament prophets, God always warns before he punishes. Always.
He's treating us with grace in the interim. Which actually leads me to another trap people fall into. We have this deep-seated instinct that suffering is a direct punishment. If I get sick or if I lose my job, I must have done something specific to deserve it. I must have earned this bad luck.
That is the exact reward concept. Or, to use the cultural term we hear everywhere, karma.
Right. Can you contrast the Christian view with karma for us? Because they get confused a lot in popular culture.
Well, the law of karma, which originates from Hinduism and Buddhism, essentially says you get exactly what you deserve based on your actions in this life or a past life. Suffering is a direct mathematical result of your own sin debt. It's a completely transactional universe.
And the practical implication of that is actually quite harsh, isn't it? If you follow it to its logical end.
It is incredibly harsh, because if you believe in strict karma, then helping a suffering person is actually interfering with cosmic justice. They need to suffer that specific pain to work off their karmic debt. It leads to a very fatalistic view of pain. You are poor because you were greedy in a past life. Don't interfere.
That's brutal. So how does Jesus handle this concept? Because he deals with it directly in the Gospels, doesn't he?
He does, very explicitly.
Yep.
In John chapter 9, the disciples see a man who was born blind, and they ask Jesus the ultimate karma question. Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?
They just assumed someone was to blame. It had to be a punishment for a specific act.
And Jesus refutes it immediately. He says, neither this man nor his parents sinned. He completely disconnects individual suffering from specific personal sin. He says this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him.
That is a massive paradigm shift. Suffering is not always a direct punishment.
No, it's not. In fact, Douglas Gruthis has this fantastic quote regarding this. He says, one reason sin flourishes is that it is treated like a cream puff instead of a rattlesnake.
I love that quote. Explain that metaphor for us.
Well, think about it. If every time we sinned, we got immediate sharp pain, like touching a hot stove, we would stop sinning instantly. But we wouldn't stop because we loved God or loved goodness. We'd stop simply because we didn't want to get zapped. We would just be rats in a maze avoiding an electric shock.
And conversely, if we got a cookie or a reward every time we did something good,
We would just be spoiled, mercenary children, doing good just for the payment. God does not treat us as our sins deserve. Psalm 103 is very clear on this. If God operated on strict, immediate justice every single day, we would be consumed. The fact that we are breathing right now is an act of sheer grace.
So we've established that evil is a privation. It's the rust, not the creation. Free will is the door it came through. And God holds back ultimate judgment for the sake of mercy. And I have to be completely honest here, none of that logic really fixes the pain in my chest when I'm actually grieving.
No, it doesn't. And this is exactly where we have to shift gears in this deep dive. The philosophical answers are absolutely necessary. They keep the mind from snapping when the world doesn't make sense, but they do not heal the heart. We have to move from the philosophical and logical aspect to the religious and emotional aspect.
Because the learner profile we talked about at the beginning, they might understand the square triangle paradox perfectly, but that doesn't help at all when the doctor sits down and says it's malignant.
Exactly. Logic doesn't hold your hand in the waiting room. We desperately need to know, does God actually care? Is he just a divine watchmaker who wound up the universe, saw the gears grinding and crushing people, and just walked away to a safe distance?
There's this prevailing idea of God as an impervious potentate, sitting on a golden throne, completely safe, far away from the blood and the mess down here, like a billionaire in a penthouse looking down at the slums.
And the Christian faith shatters that image completely. This is one of the most utterly unique things about Christianity among world religions. It claims that God is not only aware of suffering, he actively feels it.
There's a line from the sources we read that really stuck with me. It says, "No pain has ever come to us that has not first passed through the heart and hand of God."
That is such a profound thought. God is not aloof. And the ultimate undeniable proof of this is the very mission of our deep dive today, the cross.
This is God's radical solution to the problem of evil.
Yes, God solved the problem of evil not by writing a textbook explaining it to us, but by stepping down and taking it upon himself.
He became the man of sorrows.
Isaiah 53 describes the Messiah as a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. Think about the weight of that. The creator of the entire universe knows exactly what it feels like to be betrayed by a close friend. He knows what it feels like to be unjustly tortured. He knows what it feels like to be completely abandoned.
Hebrews says we have a high priest who sympathizes with our weaknesses.
He isn't guessing what we are going through from afar. He has been there in the dirt. Look at when Jesus stood at Lazarus' tomb in John chapter 11. He knew. He was about to raise Lazarus from the dead. He knew the happy ending was literally 5 minutes away. But what did he do in that moment?
He wept.
He wept. Shortest verse in the Bible, but maybe the heaviest. He engaged deeply with the sorrow of death and the grief of his friends. He felt the anguish in Gethsemane so deeply. He sweat drops of blood. He absolutely refused to use his divinity as a shield to protect himself from the emotional and physical cost of evil.
So how does this deepen our love for him? Because that's our overarching goal here, to see how exploring this dark topic actually leads to greater devotion in our daily lives.
Well, think about human leadership. Who would you rather follow into a fierce battle? A general who sits in a safe, air-conditioned bunker 50 miles away and just radios and coordinates? Or a captain who is right there in the mud with you, taking the exact same fire bleeding the exact same blood.
The captain in the mud every single time. You trust that guy with your life. You love that guy.
The cross is the historical proof that God is in the mud with us. It demonstrates that life is deeply unfair. I mean, the perfectly innocent dying for the guilty is the ultimate definition of unfairness, but it shows that God redeems that unfairness. It fundamentally changes the nature of our suffering.
It changes how we walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
Psalm 23. Notice the specific preposition David uses. It doesn't say, I will walk around the valley, or I will fly safely over the valley.
It says walk through.
Through. And the promise of that psalm isn't the absence of the dark valley. The promise is the intimate presence of the shepherd within it. I will fear no evil, for you are with me.
There is a beautiful, very visceral image in Isaiah 49 about this kind of presence.
Yes, there is. God asks, can a nursing mother forget her child? Now, biologically, hormonally, emotionally, it is almost impossible for a nursing mother to forget her newborn baby. It's hardwired into her very being. But God says, even these may forget, but I will not forget you.
He is more mindful of us than a mother is of her infant. That is incredibly comforting when you feel forgotten by the universe.
It is. It transforms suffering from a lonely, senseless punishment into a shared journey. We are not suffering from God. We are suffering with God.
But there's still a nagging question of purpose. Okay, God is with me. He's the captain in the mud. I love him for that. I'm devoted to him because he didn't abandon me. But why do I have to go through the mud at all? Why can't we just be happy?
Now we hit the great modern cultural idol. We just assume the primary purpose of human life is to be happy, to be comfortable, to be continuously self-actualized.
And if we aren't happy, we assume something has gone terribly wrong. The universe is broken and someone needs to fix it.
But from the divine perspective, God's primary purpose for us isn't our happiness, at least not in the shallow, fleeting sense of just feeling good right now. His purpose is our holiness. He wants us to grow and develop spiritually to reflect the character of Christ.
This is what the sources call the soul-making theodicy.
Right. It suggests that a world without any evil would be a good world, sure, but it would not be the best possible world for creating mature, robust souls.
Whoa, hold on a second. That's a massive paradox. How can a world with evil in it possibly be better than a world without it?
Because certain virtues, the deepest, most profound human virtues, are logically impossible to develop without the presence of evil or suffering.
Give us some tangible examples of that. Let's test this theory out.
Take courage. Can you actually be courageous if there is absolutely no danger, if there's no fear to overcome?
No, you'd just be safe. You'd just be doing normal things. Courage implies a real risk.
Exactly. Courage inherently requires fear and danger to exist. Without danger, courage is just a theoretical concept that cannot ever be actualized. What about mercy or forgiveness?
Well, you can't forgive someone unless they've actively wronged you first. You can't show mercy unless someone is actually guilty and deserves punishment.
Right. If everyone is perfectly nice to you all the time, forgiveness is a word with absolutely no meaning. What about perseverance or patience?
You only learn those through enduring a trial. You can't learn endurance if the race is perfectly flat and easy.
And compassion. You cannot suffer with someone, which is what the word compassion literally translates to, unless there is actual suffering happening.
So God wanted a world rich in these specific, deep virtues, this idea of plenitude.
He wanted a world of battle-tested souls. He wanted veterans, not just innocent, untested bystanders. He wanted a world where love is proven in the fire of adversity, not just stated in the comfort of a perfect garden.
This connects back to a really interesting idea about heaven from our outline, because we often just think, well, I'll be good when I get to heaven. I'll learn it all there.
But here's the heavenly twist. There is no moral growth in heaven in this specific, battle-tested sense. Heaven is a place of immutable goodness. We won't learn courage there because there are no dragons left to fight. We won't learn patience because there is no agonizing waiting. We won't learn deep faith because we will see him face to face. The test is over.
So this life, this messy, painful, confusing life, is the gym.
It's the boot camp. It's the only opportunity we have in our entire eternal existence to develop these specific spiritual muscles. Hebrews 11:35 explicitly mentions people who endured severe torture so they might obtain a better resurrection.
That heavily implies that our response to evil right now directly affects our eternity.
It does. Paul tells Timothy in 1 Timothy chapter 4 that godliness holds promise for the present life and the life to come. Struggling against evil refines the soul in a way that simply being created nice cannot ever achieve.
It's the difference between a raw recruit and a seasoned soldier. The soldier has a depth of character and grit the recruit just can't have yet, no matter how good or eager the recruit is.
Exactly. And God wants the seasoned soldier. He wants sons and daughters who have walked through the literal fire and still chosen him when it was agonizingly hard, when it cost them something dear. That kind of devoted love is infinitely weightier.
So let's try to bring this all home. We've got the logic of August and the Rust versus the Iron. We've got the reality of free will lovers versus robots. We have the deep comfort of the cross god in the mud with us, and the purpose of soul making this world is the gym. But we still have to wake up tomorrow morning and live in this broken world. How do we practically live devotedly in this tension?
We have to consciously prioritize trust over understanding.
That's so hard for us. We are absolute information junkies in this culture. We demand to know why.
We are totally obsessed with why. But God rarely gives us the why. He gives us the who.
There's the analogy of the child and the doctor from the reading. I think this perfectly explains the gap between our minds and God's.
It really does. Imagine a toddler. A very young child doesn't understand the concept of vaccinations. All they know is that their parent, the person who claims to love them more than anything, is forcefully holding them down while a stranger stabs them with a sharp needle.
To the child, that looks like the ultimate betrayal. You're supposed to protect me, and you're letting this monster hurt me?
It feels like pure, unadulterated evil. The child cannot grasp the concept of immunity or virus. It is cognitively light years beyond them. Their brain physically isn't developed enough to understand the why. But the loving parent knows that this momentary pain is absolutely necessary for a lifetime of health.
And the child just has to trust the parent's intent, even when the action hurts.
God almost never asks us to understand Him fully. We literally can't, any more than the toddler can understand advanced immunology. Our minds are strictly finite. His purposes are completely infinite. But He asks us to trust His heart. He asks us to trust that the needle is necessary for the greater good.
There's a fantastic visual for this from the theologian Helmut Thielich, the fabric analogy. Walk us through that because it's brilliant.
Oh, I love this one. It's so incredibly helpful for the daily struggle we all face. Imagine you are looking at a beautiful piece of woven fabric through a magnifying glass.
Okay, it's got the image.
In the exact center of the lens, the image is perfectly clear. You can clearly see the distinct threads, the intricate pattern, the weave. It's sharp. You understand it perfectly. But as you move your eye to the edges of the lens, what happens?
It gets blurry, distorted. The physics of the curved lens bends the light.
Right. Felix says our life is exactly like that view. The center of the lens is the cross. It is crystal clear. There we see God's love perfectly defined. We see His true character. We see He is unshakably for us. We see Him dying for us. That is the focal point of all human history.
But the edges?
The edges are our daily circumstances. The sudden car accident, the unexpected layoff, the terrifying diagnosis, the confusing daily mess of life. They are completely blurry. We look at them and we can't make any sense of the pattern. We look at the edge and say, this looks like pure chaos.
So what do we usually do? We stare at the blur and we get panicked.
Exactly. But what we need to do is interpret the blurry edges based on the clear center. We don't look at the blur and say, well, God must be blurry and confusing. Yeah. We look at the cross and say, God is definitively good. God is definitively love. Therefore, this blur at the edge of my life must ultimately be part of a good pattern, even if I can't possibly see it yet.
That is so incredibly practical. When the edges get blurry, force yourself to look back at the center. Don't judge God's heart by your current circumstances. Judge your circumstances by God's heart revealed perfectly at the cross.
Exactly. And we see this exact reaction modeled in the Bible. Look at Job.
Job is the ultimate example. I mean, talk about a bad week. He lost his wealth, his children, his health, everything gone in a flash.
And his wife, who was suffering immensely too, let's be fair to her, she gives him the advice so many people feel in their dark moments. Curse God and die. Just give up.
Yeah.
The system is clearly broken. Walk away.
And Job's response is just fascinating. He says, shall we accept good from God and not trouble?
You worshipped. He didn't understand anything that was happening. He had zero answers. He had plenty of angry questions. But he chose to worship the who when he didn't have the why. He trusted the center when the edges were a total nightmare.
And then there is Joseph. This is one of my absolute favorite stories of redemption in the text.
Betrayed by his own brothers, sold into foreign slavery, falsely accused of rape by his boss's wife, thrown in a dungeon for years. He sat in a literal hole in the ground for doing the right thing.
It's a staggering catalog of unfairness.
But at the very end of his life, he looks at those same brothers, the very men who intentionally ruined his life, and says one of the most important theological sentences in Scripture. You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good.
It's like a cosmic judo move.
Yes. That's a brilliant way to put it. Judo uses the opponent's own weight and momentum against them. God used the very evil of the brothers, their selfish jealousy, their cruel betrayal, to position Joseph in Egypt to save the entire region from mass starvation. God turned evil entirely against itself.
He didn't just stop the evil, he completely co-opted it. He hijacked it for a massive good.
And that is the explicit promise of Romans 8:28. Not that everything is good, cancer is never good, murder is never good, but that God works in all things for the ultimate good of those who love him.
And even Jesus. The text says he learned obedience from what he suffered.
Hebrews 5:8. Even the perfect Son of God grew in his human experience through suffering. If he needed it to fulfill his purpose, how much more do we? If the captain had to go through the mud to become the Savior, we have to go through the mud to become like him.
So, bringing it down to the ground today, how does this practically affect the body of Christ, the church community? Because we aren't doing this boot camp alone.
Suffering is the actual glue that binds us together. It gives us the opportunity to fulfill the command to bear one another's burdens.
If no one ever had a burden, we couldn't bear them. We'd just be a superficial social club meeting on Sundays.
And Paul says in 2 Corinthians that we comfort others with the exact comfort we ourselves receive from God. Your specific pain makes you a better comforter. It gives you actual credentials in the lives of others.
I've seen that firsthand. But the person who has lost a child is really the only one who can truly sit in silence with another parent who just lost a child. I can't do it. I don't have the right language or the right depth.
Exactly. Your suffering gives you a powerful ministry you never asked for and never wanted, but one that is incredibly vital. You become a wounded healer. And finally, it purifies our faith. It proves, just like with Job, that we serve God for him, not just for his benefits. Remember Satan's initial challenge to God. He said, Job only loves you because you give him stuff and protect him.
So suffering actually proves Satan wrong. When we worship in the middle of the pain, we prove we love the giver, not just the gifts. We prove that he himself is enough.
That is the ultimate picture of devotion. That is where our love truly matures and becomes unshakable.
This has been heavy, but really, really good. Let's summarize the journey before we wrap up today. We covered a massive amount of ground.
Sure. Let's recap the main points of the roadmap we traveled. First, evil is a privation. It's not a created substance. It's a corruption of the good. It's the rust, not the car. Second, the risk of love. God allowed the possibility of evil because he wanted free lovers, not programmed robots. The possibility of saying no is what gives any meaning to the yes. Third, the cross. God entered into our suffering personally. He is not aloof. He is the captain in the mud with us. And fourth, the greater good. God actively uses this broken world as a soul-making factory to produce deep virtues that simply couldn't exist otherwise.
And that leads us to our final thought for the day. Something for you, the listener, to take with you. A provocative thought to just chew on this week.
I want to leave you with this specific idea: the hunger for home.
Unpack what you mean by that.
Perhaps the lingering, painful presence of evil in our daily lives is actually a severe mercy from God. Because this fallen world were perfectly comfortable, if we had absolutely no pain, no loss, no death here, we would never ever want to leave.
We would just settle for Earth. We'd put down our permanent roots and say, this is it. This is as good as it gets.
We would be perfectly content with the lesser good. We would never long for heaven. We would never hunger for the true kingdom we were actually made for.
So the suffering makes us homesick.
It actively awakens a deep hunger for the place where God will wipe away every tear. It constantly reminds us that we are just pilgrims passing through here, not permanent residents. C.S. Lewis had a great thought on this. He said, "Our Father refreshes us on the journey with some pleasant inns, but will not encourage us to mistake them for home."
That completely changes the perspective on the daily struggle. It's not just a meaningless hassle. It's a bright signpost pointing home. It's a sharp reminder that we were made for somewhere else entirely.
Exactly. So I'd ask you listening right now, is your current struggle just making you bitter? Or is it making you homesick for the kingdom?
That is a deeply powerful question to sit with.
And my final practical challenge to you this week is this. Take one specific difficulty you are facing right now. Maybe it's a fractured relationship, a scary health issue, a deep financial fear. Try to view it actively through that fabric analogy. Acknowledge that the edge is blurry, it hurts, it's confusing. But intentionally look back at the center, look at the cross, and tell yourself, the center holds. The pattern is good, even if I can't see it today.
The center holds. Thank you for diving so deep with us today. It's not an easy swim by any means, but it's a vitally necessary one.
Absolutely. It was a privilege.
We'll see you on the next deep dive. Stay curious.